Realize that at least 15 to 20% of men today are dealing with infertility. Unfortunately, the focus is on women. Still, in 2025, we don't look at men as a problem, we only look at the women. And because we're focusing more here on women that are older having children, so if you're in your 30s and your 40s and you're trying to conceive, you tend to have a lower chance of conception. And part of it is not you, okay? You're not always the issue. Even if you have a lower chance, if your man has a higher chance, you're not going to have these problems. But the truth is, most times, these older women are dating older men. So I'm in my 40s, my husband is in his 40s, and we're trying to conceive. The likelihood is the chances of conception is decreased on both sides. So today I just want to share some of the issues that we have from the male perspective, because often the focus is on the women, and men are going around feeling like, I can have babies as a man at the age of 80. I don't go through menopause, even though they do. I don't go through menopause. So therefore, um, I'm not the problem, you are. Especially when we look at the cultural aspect of this. Within our culture, it's not often talked about that male infertility is a big deal and it's a big issue. Here are some of the reasons why we have infertility in men. One is a low sperm count. What causes low sperm count? I spoke about this on a previous episode that I did on birth control. Birth control indirectly actually impacts the sperm count of your partner. And you can always go back and look at that video or do your research and learn more about how birth control can impact sperm count on the man. Very fascinating to me. One of the key reasons why we have low sperm count in men is hormonal imbalance. Hormonal imbalance is a big problem, and this is typically due to all of the environmental issues that we're dealing with today. I don't want to go through this and break them down individually, but some examples of environmental factors and toxins that we deal with that lead to hormonal imbalance. We're talking about the foods we're eating, we're talking about BPAs, we're talking about the toxins we're putting on our skin. All those things impact your hormones. So when we talk about it for women, we forget to indicate that this also affects men, because women are not the only ones that have hormones. Men have hormones too, and hormonal imbalance is a big thing. So what are some of the way you can help decrease or address some of this issue with hormonal imbalance? It's one, trying to maintain a healthy lifestyle. So I talked about foods and I talked about toxins in the environment. All of those play a role. But other things that can also lead to imbalances include things like weight. So watching your weight, maintaining a healthy weight can help mitigate some of that symptom. Another thing to consider is motility, sperm motility. So you have two things working against you. One is the decrease in number of sperm count, and two is the slowing down of the sperm movement. So now the sperm that used to go at 80 miles per hour to get to that egg, it's so excited when you were 20. In your 40s, that sperm is going at 40 miles per hour. So imagine the difference. So not only do you have less sperm trying to get to the egg, you have a slow sperm trying to get to the egg. And that also increases the risk of infertility. Again, some of the things that one can do to help mitigate some of that issue would be just avoiding a lot of heat exposure. And how can you avoid heat exposure? Think about how men dress these days. That's just a standard basic example. Men are wearing really tight pants. Tight pants increase heat. Increase in heat is cooking those sperms. I hate to put it that way. And therefore slowing down its motility. And increasing antioxidant consumption would also help mitigate some of that problem, you know. So again, watching your diet, watching your weight, um, and also wearing looser pants. You know, men should not be competing with women. Where I don't think women should be wearing tight pants anyway. But here we are. Men and women are wearing really tight pants because that's some of the reasons why we have issues with women. Because a part of the reason why you have some of these challenges are infections. Women that tend to wear really tight pants tend to have more chances of yeast infections, and it's the same that applies to men. There's a higher risk of infection when they wear clothes that are too tight. So that infection leads to sperm morphology. And sperm morphology, abnormal sperm morphology, is again environmental toxins. It could be genetic, but trust me, it's very small chance of genetics being a big factor here, because your great grandfather didn't have this problem. Your grandfather didn't have this problem. Your father didn't have this problem. So you can't just say it's your genes. You know, genetics mean we can trace it back 5 generations, 10 generations, 2 generations, 3 generations. We can't claim genetics randomly out of nowhere because we don't know where to pinpoint the problem um, evolving from. But most of it has to do with environmental factors and infections and also lifestyle. So, what are some things to do? Avoid pesticides, avoid when you have infection as an issue with sperm morphology, you want to avoid exposure to too much chemicals. Like you can't just eat a lot of these foods that are oversprayed. Most of these foods have so much chemicals packed on them. That's one. And then you want the perfect lawn, so you're there using Roundup every 2 days, and you're sitting out there in this grass, and you're the one spraying it without any kind of protection. All these things are going to impact your sperm count. You have to watch it and be careful and decrease the amount. And of course, I've talked about um, hormonal imbalance, but one of the things I didn't talk about is alcohol and drug use. You know, we don't think about them, but excess consumption of alcohol can lead to a hormonal imbalance, and so does excess um, smoking can also affect your hormones. So, what am I saying? When we want women to conceive, if you and your partner are trying to have this child, you can't leave the pressure on just this woman and have her doing all the work and figuring it out and changing her diet and drinking herbal teas and doing all of these yoga and what have you. She's doing everything in her power to increase her chances. And here you are chilling, sedentary, not exercising, not watching what you eat, you know, with a huge beer belly because you sit and drink all day, every day. You don't do anything to watch, you know, the things in your environment. You're not watching the clothing you're wearing, the food you're eating, the chemicals you're wearing on your skin as lotions. You're not watching the stuff you're spraying in your house, in your environment. You're not watching what is sprayed on your food that you're consuming. You are just living your life. That's a problem. It's not fair to this woman, and it's not fair to you, because even if you realize that you are the problem, you can fix this, you can change this, but you have to do these few things. Clean up your environment. Just get rid of all of this toxic stuff we keep spraying. Perfume, colognes, you know, um, plastic bottles all day. You're drinking water out of plastic, all that BPA. You know, you have water sitting in your car, it gets warm, you drink it the next day just because it cooled back down. You're warming your food in the microwaves, you're cooking food in the microwave in a plastic container. You are drinking water that has not been um, filtered. You are eating foods that are not organic, and if you can help it, at least try and get them organic. If not, clean them um with some what do you call it, hmm. vinegar. Clean up with some sea salt or some vinegar, something that can help at least eliminate some of these toxins from it if you can't afford to buy organic. uh yeah, so those are some things I wanted to share today. Don't just leave the pressure on the woman. Step up and get some things done. You as the man are also responsible for making sure you have a healthy baby. And get this, even if your woman does conceive, if your sperm is unhealthy, you have an unhealthy child. So you end up with children that have all kinds of learning disability, autism, Down syndrome, what have you. Because, yes, you were able to conceive, but the egg is unhealthy, or the sperm is unhealthy. So you have to do, both of you have to work so hard to ensure that you produce a healthy child, because it takes two. Try and clean up your diet as much as possible, because that's going to help you. And if you are overweight, lose that weight as much as you can. And you can do this easily. Weight loss is not difficult. You can lose weight if you try fasting. I've shared this before. Intermittent fasting consistently will help you drop weight quickly. Going vegan, keto, whichever diet you choose, I'm not here to tell you which one. I personally advocate for the vegan diet because I think the keto diet is just too high in meat consumption. And as an African woman, I don't think that's our ideal diet. So I would not recommend it for me. But if it works for you, by all means do it. But change your diet, get off the couch, mentally stimulate yourself, physically stimulate yourself. And I will say it again, women, get off those birth controls. Because if you're not stimulating your partner, he's not producing sperm. If he's not producing sperm, we have low sperm count, and we're back to square one. Birth control has an indirect effect on you as the woman, and also on the man that you are with. So if we want to have those babies, and not just have babies, if we want to have healthy babies, then we have to put in the work. I thank you for your time. If you have any experience with infertility, if you need more guidance and support on what you can do to help you get through it, and what changes you can make, recommendations on what food you can eat, if you have been able to cure yourself of infertility, or if you've been able to conceive after years of infertility, I have shared my story, my journey with not being able to conceive, and what changes I was able to make to help me conceive. Share your story. We'll love to hear it. Put it down below. Please comment. If you gained anything from this video, leave me a like. I appreciate your time, and I'll see you next time.